Ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs, we are live for the Beacon TVL show. We got a special guest for today. So, ladies and gentlemen,
the special
welcome.
guest isn't just your hat, right, Chris?
No, it's not my hat. It's not my gear. You know, go Gators. I know we have multiple members in our group who attended the University of Florida. So, you know, go Gators to all of you. Got another Gator here in the chute. If you can tell, exactly. Look at that. Look at that. Yeah. Based on the artwork behind him, we'll give a little hint. We have from Beefy, we have EPETE. Welcome, EPETE. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. It was crazy that you know, hearing this, and he's in Florida. We're kind of all from the same area, and where I was just talking about things that I definitely miss about you know, being in the South. I don't necessarily miss the heat and humidity, but I do miss things like sweet tea. I do miss things like subs from Publix, a very popular supermarket brand out in that area. And yeah, it's just a small world when you can see people that have gone, you know, that are just from the same area that you are, wherever you are in the country. Andrew, we don't have any other childhood links, do we, that I don't know about?
I thought you were going to bring up the rain because, you know, the rain is so nice here too. So much rain.
Yeah, it does rain every day for like just a good hour in the summer. Just a little swath comes across and cools it down for the rest of the evening. But
so what's that gas station chain everybody from Florida seems to love?
that would be Buc-ee's.
Really? Where is it where people love WeWa?
Texas.
Yeah, south, like Texas to southeast type of thing. Are you talking about Buc-ee's, the world's largest gas station, or are you talking about something else?
Wasn't there like WeWa, Huawei? I don't know. I'm
Wawa.
not from Florida.
Wawa. Is there Wawa in Florida?
I think that's originally like a Northeast chain, but
yeah, it's like a Jersey thing, right?
Florida too.
Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, here in North Carolina, everything is so dominated by Quick Trip that I can't really remember any other.
I love QT. QT is fantastic. We could turn this into a whole gas station food because I love gas station food, and it's disgusting, but I don't care because QT.
Hey, I wasn't talking about food. I wasn't even talking about food.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a separate open.
You know, I was thinking about regional stuff gas stations. That's what comes to mind.
Fair enough.
One day, America will have a national gas station that just is like there's one gas station or two, and it's in every state, but that time isn't yet.
That sounds like state-owned oil.
It's not what I meant.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
All right, okay, we can move on. Cold open.
Yeah, so I wanted to bring up the chart, obviously. Last week we were in a healthy correction, let's call it that. That was quite the healthy correction. We're back close. We touched 70, right? We went almost to 71 yesterday. Andrew, any thoughts about the market this past week with this healthy pullback that we've got now that we're in the pre-halving zone?
Yeah, I mean, BTC kind of still seems unstoppable. You know, base alts still going nuts. You know, other than a bit of the FUD around ETH, right? It kind of just seems like everything's continuing to be fairly unstoppable.
What about you, EPETE? Are you a big hodler of BTC or ETH?
ETH for sure. Bitcoin, I love it. It's the OG. To me, it's digital gold. It doesn't really excite me. There's very limited DeFi uses of it directly. But yeah, I mean, it seems like Bitcoin has not truly topped, and like we don't really get into a true alt season or DeFi season until well after that. So I think I kind of look at it as that's kind of my lens that I view Bitcoin with. It just kind of, it's like, okay, we're not even in true DeFi yet. So
Yeah, that's a good point, and I appreciate that take. And you know, for anybody who's here, I love that we have a true DeFi pioneer here amongst us. But one thing, if we start moving towards DeFi, one thing that's surging along with BTC is Base, the layer 2 blockchain from Coinbase, and it is going absolutely bonkers right now, to the point that it's actually ridiculously expensive right now for gas because of actual execution fees. You know, they did lower the gas thanks to, you know, within 24 hours, thanks to EIP 4844 when Denkun went live. But now, I mean, I think I was trying to repay a position, I think on Extra Finance. You know, we talked about that 2 weeks ago in our alpha section, or in our what we learned rather. And to repay just a certain part of it, you know, I was just paying down with like $25 to get my debt ratio back in a better spot. It was $14. And then if I wanted to close the position, it was like $22 to close the position. And I was just like, just liquidate me. Just like, it's cheaper for me to just take that, just break it. So I'm just trying to figure out, like, you know, this. So what they've mentioned here is, and this is from Base itself. We'll have this, of course, in our show notes when if you want to learn, get the news and the links here. But they are looking to make changes. Jesse Pollock, who's the head of protocol there, blockchain rather, at Base, had a really interesting tweet here, specifically about the TLDR of it with what they need to do, and that's to scale Base 1,000 times. 1000x in terms of magnification, and the urgency to do so is right here and right now, which is bold. So they're actually going to be raising the gas target by up to, I think, 300 or 400% over the next 7 days. And just to kind of just double check on, you know, how is that going to be moving? Is it going to help with you know, intercepting traffic as well as lowering fees overall over time, which is the goal. It's priority number one for them to lower it, because even though gas is cheap, the rest of the fees should also be in line with that. So EP, I'll start with you. Are you a Base user?
I have a very, very close eye on Base. I'm not using it actively, but there's a ton of activity for Beefy on Base, so I've been paying extremely close attention to that. And yeah, definitely have noticed the gas costs. Trying to work around that with trying to make sure we can still harvest our balls. Because I checked this morning, it's like $21 to harvest a ball, whereas like a penny, like this, like right after Denkun went live.
Yeah, and that's, so I just wanted to talk about that really quickly. So, you know, at Beefy, one of our favorite protocols, we feature them all the time on our calls and our guides. In the event that it comes time to harvest the vault, and clearly the harvest is most likely not going to be in line with how much it costs to actually harvest, does the vault just skip that harvest, or does it just go ahead and eat it?
So the way we have our own bot that we run that we lovingly refer to as the COWLECTOR.
Oh, the COWLECTOR.
All the, yeah. So that's our in-house bot, and so it's like constantly checking to see. It's like, okay, has it been 24 hours? Yes. Okay, then is this harvest going to be successful? Yes. Okay, then let me harvest it. But we did have to put in a gas cap on our harvester. So pretty much as soon as the gas price gets lower than the threshold, it'll get harvested again. But if you're kind of in that vault and you are wanting to pay the cost to actually do that harvest, anyone can call that at any time and just pay the gas, and they'll get a small percent of the pending yield in as a thank you for doing that. Initially, after Denkun went live, the fees were so cheap that vaults were being harvested like every 10 minutes for profit because it just was so insanely cheap. But that's not the case at the moment right now.
Yeah, definitely not the case at the moment. I'm hoping that we're just going to have to monitor and check to see how gas kind of performs. I'll have to find a link to a Dune dashboard that I have, because there is no gas tracker on Base Scan, but there is a Dune dashboard from someone who is who is tracking that, that I'll share in the show notes. Andrew, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I know gas is expensive because I too have made decisions. I haven't let myself get liquidated on anything, but I've made decisions, especially on extra finance, about like what I'm going to do or what it's worth to do, because man, it almost feels like it's not mainnet fees. It feels reminiscent of mainnet fees or reminiscent of when Solidly launched on Phantom last cycle, of just how expensive things are getting. So yeah, I don't know why it's gotten so expensive. Is it just volume? Volume's up so high?
It's execution fees. Like most of the fees, if you do a transaction and break down the fees, it's fees going to Optimism to settle on the stack. So, yeah, it's just because things are just so high in terms of demand. I think the demand is up a full 5x based on that. But what's interesting is, I guess, what their vision is at this point. So they're looking to scale their ETH data availability layer. They want to help build more infrastructure to help other, members of the super chain, but they also want to unlock dedicated L3 block space. So I think for me, that's the point that's the most interesting, is that they're willing to become the center of DeFi when it comes to this burgeoning expansion of L2 infrastructure. They know that someone's going to have to take the lead, do things a little unorthodox based on the existing plan, and they're willing to do it, which is great. Obviously, they have, they have the backing of Coinbase, so obviously there's that. But the fact that they're willing to take this head on is, in my opinion, super bullish in this case. And I look forward to seeing specifically, how that goes and how it works. So I have a link here, thanks to EPETE. Is it OWLRACLE?
Yeah.
That's a fun little name. And I guess this gives us what the gas is. Gas is fine. It's really just more on the execution fees. So, oh, I see. So you can actually do, wow, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, my understanding is basically this is by design, that once it hits like a certain demand, that's when the competitive gas prices start to come into play. And I appreciate that they have been very clear that they understand the frustration, that they're aware of the issue, and short-term and like long-term plans to make it better. So I feel like the communication from the base team has been very good on it too.
Yeah, I completely agree. In fact, one thing that they put in the tweet that I thought was interesting is that, in terms of what they're looking to do, is that they know they're going to need all of that to usher in the next billion into DeFi, and they're willing to do it, which is amazing. And I hope that they can literally, support and execute on that plan, because they're going to get a ton of users into the space easily. With the snap of a finger, Coinbase can literally do anything tomorrow and get millions of people to come into DeFi. I think they're just waiting for some things to kind of go into place, and hopefully bringing down these fees will be the first thing, because, they're like, yeah, let's go to base. And then look, it's a $20 transaction. Like, I don't know if I want to do this. So I guess we'll see exactly what happens here.
So this is big, and this is interesting. And I think there's some technical understanding both of you have that I'm missing here. So when you're talking about the execution fees, are you just talking about the cost that it takes to execute a smart contract versus the cost that it takes to do a simple transfer?
I think it's more for like consensus and just getting the call done. Because they do have to actually, push this stuff upstream to get that all taken care of. Let me know if I'm off base on that.
It does all get reflected in the gas price though, because when you're looking at these transactions, the way that it's requiring to actually get a transaction through, it's like that might be the underlying thing, but you can tell just in the gas price what the cost of the transaction is going to be. It seems to be pretty consistent with that.
Well, $20 to execute a smart contract is a lot. I think in previous cycles, I'm not sure if we really, or really just last cycle, I'm not sure if we saw like a chain lose TVL or lose users because of gas costs. Or maybe we did. It's kind of hard to say, but like all of these L2 ecosystems have run into some sort of scaling issue at some time. And from a broader DeFi perspective, it's like, that's okay. That's our scaling plan. We're not trying to build one place where everything, can scale infinitely. But it seems like right now, like it's kind of a little bit surprising to me that Base is already hitting some sort of ceiling on usability. When Polygon and Phantom were having these sort of issues at different times last cycle, it seems like there was way more going on than even what we're currently seeing on Base. That's what I'm thinking. I'm just kind of wondering if you guys think I'm off base, or no pun intended, or if you agree that it feels a little bit early for them to be hitting these issues.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit early, but at the same time, I think the breadth of transactions are a lot different now than what they were last cycle. Yeah, it's hard to say, honestly, considering, with what blobs are supposed to be doing here. Yeah, maybe there's something on their infrastructure end that needs to be improved, most likely. But yeah, I'm not going to go too deep in the weeds and try and, put everyone to sleep.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm probably pulling us into the weeds, but this is just, I got pulled in like a moth to the flame to what's going on here on Base.
You're like, why is it $22? And you're like on like a 30-minute rabbit hole thing. You're like,
Well, it can be a big deal. I mean, but we'll move on. I'll stop talking about it. Let's move on.
We'll go ahead and move on. One thing that's happening, and we'll just go, kind of backpedal out to, crypto as a whole, is that KuCoin's in some trouble. And what I mean by that is KuCoin's been, now for context, KuCoin, not really in the US anymore. They haven't been since, I want to say last September is when they kicked everyone out who was US. So I just want to say, hello to all our digital Palauan residents here in the crowd. Nice to see you, fellow countrymen. But yeah, I mean, they got rid of, a lot of US customers, well before the end of last year. So I don't know if this is maybe retroactive, kind of how they went after Binance, specifically for, AML violations. But they settled last year, KuCoin did, with the New York Attorney General's office for, I think, $22 million or something like that. So curious as to see what's going on here. But they, again, it kind of caused a little bit of a ripple because there are a lot of people, specifically non-US, that are still using KuCoin. But, specifically, they haven't really been around, and there's been no arrests. These are just charges from the DOJ. CFTC is not a fan of KuCoin either. But yeah, for a lot of people who use KuCoin specifically, through whatever digital residency they want for trading, this is kind of a scary blow. They've already mentioned that funds are safe, but we've, for transparency's sake, we have recommended to, anyone who's in our communities to remove their funds from KuCoin. Not that I don't think KuCoin goes anywhere, frankly, because, they're not in the US. They're technically, I think, somewhere in the Caribbean, Seychelles. But yeah, they're really just going after. It sounds like it's retroactive because they said that KuCoin didn't register with the U.S. Treasury Department as someone who has securities, and I'm just like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Any thoughts on this, Andrew? Before we ask EPETE for any takes he has.
I mean, regulation by enforcement, and I mean, I never used KuCoin, except I don't think I ever used it. I don't want to say I never used it because maybe I did for a moment there, but they always kind of sketched me out, to be frank. I try to stay away from. I've always tried to stay away from like smaller tier 3 exchanges, just because it's terrifying. But I don't know. It's, there's a part in my like conspiracy theorist brain that is like, this is happening at the same time as the SEC is investigating the Ethereum Foundation. But these government agencies can move fairly slowly, and if this is going through the DOJ, like it's probably been cooking through the bureaucracy for months. So yeah, I don't really have a huge hot take about it. Let's
does this affect your
you
user
got any
base
thoughts,
at all,
EPETE?
What's that?
Go ahead, Andrew.
Oh, I was asking if you had any thoughts.
Yeah, does this affect your user base at all?
We are very on chain, so there's not really a whole lot of kind of central exchange kind of interaction we have. Users get on chain kind of however they end up getting on chain. So there should still be many other options for users to kind of to on-ramp.
But what I meant by that was Beefy doesn't optimize anything on KCC or KuCoin community chain, do they?
No, we're not on that chain.
Okay, that's good. That place is Rug City. Anyway, those are the days. Those were the days, I tell you, the good days of DJing when you're on KCC. It also brings back the good days. Pressing that like button, subscribing, leaving a comment, letting us know if if you're enjoying having Beefy here on the podcast, because we sure love having them here. One of our favorite farms. Again, thanks to EPETE for joining us today here on the rotating panel. I don't think this affects a whole ton of people, but if you know anybody who's using KuCoin for any reason, just have them, use a little bit of caution. There are other spots to do decent amount of trading, and now they do have multiple facets to their business, like cloud mining and all this type of stuff. So that may not be as easy to get out of if you're a little scared by this, but do be careful.
I mean, cloud mining. Who does cloud mining?
Like, they have it. I don't know. It seemed they have good ROI.
Really though? I mean,
it's not open to us, so I don't know. Anyway, the only reason why I even brought up KuCoin and in general is because the CFTC has called Litecoin and ETH commodities in their complaint against KuCoin. So that's actually an interesting precedent, hopefully for the SEC case against them, if there ever becomes one, specifically for, a lot of people are looking forward to a spot ETF, right, down the line. So them being on record calling them a commodity probably could be bullish for that case as we move further on down.
Oh man, this feels like 2023. We're talking about regulatory agencies arm wrestling over who gets to regulate something.
Yeah, and we're probably going to hit 2023 and 2022 in a second when we go to our next topic. So let's go ahead and transition with no good segue today.
Oh boy.
To the fact that we have this gentleman who was released from a Montenegrin prison on bail. He's on house arrest. He's awaiting extradition, possibly to either the U.S. or South Korea. Terraform Labs, the group that was, of course, is the group behind Terra blockchain, is currently on a trial with the SEC starting on Monday. Interestingly enough, I saw on the timeline that there is an account for Do Kwon with a blue check mark. So I wonder if there's going to be meme coins on the way for Do Kwon. I mean, he's clearly not worried about, I don't think he's too worried about a mackerel arbitrage scheme. I don't know. This brings back, when was that? Was this 2 weeks after the crash when he was on Up Only with Kobe, and Martin Shkreli came on and told Do Kwon that prison is not that bad, which was like the most surreal moment I've ever been a part of.
Yeah, that was a weird time.
That was a weird time in DeFi.
Hey, that wasn't in DeFi. That's, don't bring DeFi into that.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
That was from an undisclosed location, probably in Eastern Europe.
Which we know where that is now. Yeah. So ultimately, really just bring this up just to anybody who's curious, that it could lead to something. It may not. But what will lead to something, moving on in our news cycle here, is BlackRock launching its first tokenized fund. They're taking away, they're trying to capitalize on our acronyms by calling their first tokenized fund BIDL. Stands for the BlackRock USD Institutional Digital Liquidity Fund. I don't know how I feel about that, but they have partnered with a group called Securitize, who's been on, they've been on Avalanche, they've been on a couple different, they've been in the scene for a long time to help really just try and tokenize anything and everything they're going to try to push to the fund. So this is clearly a target at real world assets, or RWAs. Something that is part of the narrative for this year that will definitely become a larger part now that BlackRock is trying to specifically game their way in. Well, not game their way in, but come into the space with things like this. Bit of a it's an announcement more than anything, but the only other reason why I brought it up, to be honest, is because apparently for some of you who were in support of this, people are sending meme coins to BlackRock's wallet that they've partnered with Coinbase. On the infrastructure side, they're partnering with Coinbase. So I'm just wondering, why are you Giga Chad sending meme coins to their wallet? Pepe, Bonk, and all these other things are being sent there. Stop doing that.
Why okay. Stop? It's funny.
It is funny. It is funny. That's why I put it in there. I thought it was
easy advertising.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. That's actually quite
eyeballs on this Etherscan and DBank for this address.
That's true. Because I did find a specific a tweet threader named Reflection who came through and analyzed their entire wallet to find out ways that they have, and this is for anybody who's curious. Obviously, not financial advice. Do your own research. Don't ask us. We're DGen. Rio is one that's there. Landex, Polytrade, Boson, and Zend. Interesting. So anyway, yeah, and apparently Pepe probably with. And any other meme coin that's out there. So yeah, that's very, I didn't even think about that. That's very good advertising. That's good marketing to send it in there, to the point that it made an article, on whatever this platform is.
Made the podcast too.
Made the podcast too. Look at that. They're doing their job. You're welcome. You're welcome. One thing I wanted to bring up is in Ondo Finance, which is on ETH mainnet, Mantle, Sui, and Solana, they're partnered with BlackRock because BlackRock is doing their bonds. So they could be another big winner in out of this as they're looking to expand. Just kind of wanted to address that. EPETE, are you interested at all with RWAs, or is Beefy in particular looking at RWAs as something to optimize?
So, I mean, really, we kind of need everything to be on chain. we're not really we don't have that like leg into the real world to really be able to make the connection between the two. But I mean, if there's liquidity for these RWAs, these tokenized RWAs, like we're all about that part of it.
Yeah, fair enough. So once we see things on Mantle, if we start seeing some USDY pools around, I'm going to expect that we'll start seeing some of those on Beefy. We'll go and move on before we get to the what we learned section. Unfortunately, yesterday, more bad news for Blast, which is a layer 2 blockchain, top 10 TVL, thanks to a really strong marketing campaign for liquid staked ETH, talking about native ETH yield. Quite a few people in our community got into. A lot of people are getting out of Base. Not Base, Blast. Sorry. Unfortunately, 2 large games, one from the ex-Krabata team, which was Super Sushi Samurai, got exploited last week. That was a white hat hack, so they're in the process of getting that money back to the users, which apparently is going to take a little bit of time. The other is Munchables, and Munchables was a game that had VC money behind it. I think Manifold, Mechanism Capital, and they were audited. And it looks like they had a rogue developer. Thanks to Zach XBT for this, but apparently they hired 4 different devs. And apparently all 4 devs were most likely the same person. Only in DeFi could this possibly be a thing. It's like, oh, like do you know anybody who could help us out? Oh yeah, I know a guy. Puts the phone on hold, comes back, and he comes in, you're talking to the next person. So it's wild. But apparently as part of the hack, I don't have the link here, but apparently even before anything started, the dev put aside 1 million ETH to kind of shekel away.
1 million ETH?
Yeah. And as part of the contract, and then upgraded it because it had an upgradable proxy. And obviously way too in the weeds to talk about it, but ultimately it was set from the beginning that this was going to unfortunately rug in some way. But and there are other breakdowns for this on there, but it's just, again, it's just kind of just shining a light on how Wild West this industry can be, where something that at times you would think would be fairly safe because there's big names behind it. Clearly they didn't do their due diligence on development, and someone got a very stern talking to, clearly. In fact, the hacker has returned all of the funds because Blast is frankly so centralized that they probably had no real way to bridge the money out, which is the more entertaining part as well. It's not entertaining at all for people to lose money, so it probably that's not the point. But the fact that we're seeing this now is just gross.
I mean, if you went over to Blast, I don't really feel bad if you lose money. Maybe that's mean, but I'm like, it was so obviously degen from the start.
Yeah, when the bridge, and I say that in quotes, the bridge into the blockchain is just sending money to I don't even remember if it was a multi-sig or if it was just an EOA. That was the bridge to get into Blast. That's
yeah,
an interesting.
It was an EOA.
Definition of a bridge.
Yeah, so if you're gonna do that, if you're gonna engage in not DeFi but trust me, bro, degenerate finance, I mean you're gonna have some big wins because the world's crazy, but you're also gonna have some huge losses. So yeah, I don't know. You're so sympathetic to the degens, Chris. I'm like, if you were yeeting more than 1% of your stack over there to play with fire, you probably you learned a valuable lesson in risk management.
Yeah, no, I think that's the main point, is that even with everything going on, you have to, you have to be very careful about what you do. And, that goes into, a great little PSA for, right now, join our free group at TVL, which is what this show is named after, Total Value Locked. Completely free. Learn DeFi from the best DeFi experts in the space today. EPETE is a member there. Love having him there in the community. School.com/Beacon is completely free. If you know anybody that that has a problem with DeFi, have them come.
A problem?
No.
Or this wants a T-shirt because apparently you like to give away T-shirts.
I'm still in the middle. I can't unblur myself here, but I have a bunch of swag behind me from ETH Denver, as well as some Beacon swag that I'm still looking to give away. So again, subscribe and comment that you want something, and I'll draw a winner there. Or you can join school, introduce yourself in our introduction section, and pretty much everybody who does that is going to be getting.
You can also send Chris a fax. That's the third option.
I'm not that old.
If you watch this show carefully, you may see a hidden phone number, and just keep in mind that's actually Chris's fax number.
That's true.
That's the real way to reach him for the swag.
Yeah, or you can just send me an owl. Just send me an owl. Either way. The icing on the cake, based on by the way, is that the exploiter. Apparently, the exploiter has the funds in an LP. And is earning a ridiculous amount of money. I think $300 an hour or something like that. So he's earning yield on the funds that he's holding on to while they
Frankly, I'd be disappointed if he wasn't.
Yeah, I know. That's the icing on the cake, right? It's like, wow. Yeah, to me, that was the icing on the cake. I was like, yeah, that sucks. But you got to hat tip the guy for trying to milk all this out, because clearly he's not getting any of that money back, but he'll make some yield while he's at it. So we'll see how he decides to bridge that out, because that's going to be a fun little exercise, and I have no idea what. But yeah, Blast is not a place we're going to talk much about anymore moving forward. You guys don't do Blast at Beefy, do you?
We do not.
Okay.
Also, I mean, another issue with Blast, as far as Beefy is concerned, is a lot of times it's just points.
Yeah.
And, points aren't really something that you can compound. So
that's a fair point. That's a fair point.
Well, we always look for there to be reputable bridges into and out of any blockchains that we deploy on. So that's also been kind of a sticking point.
No, that's fantastic. So we'll go on to the what we've learned section. Of course, we have EPETE here. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. For those of you who are new to what we do, we talk about Beefy a lot in our material, and we've gone through a ton of different positions that use Beefy. Beefy being the great protocol that it is. I've used Beefy since launch in 2020, and I've seen it go through many different UI changes, and now that they're on a gajillion blockchains. EPETE, if you could take a second just to introduce Beefy to our audience for anybody who's not familiar with that and what Beefy does, that'd be great.
Sure. Beefy, at its core, Beefy is automation software. We started on Binance Smart Chain in October of 2020. So 3.5 years we've been on the scene. And really, I mean, at its core, the automation that we were doing was claiming yield tokens, selling them for the LPs that you're staking to get those yield tokens, and kind of turning that from a basic, simple APR into a compounded APY, while automating the whole process so that you can just kind of deposit and then hang out and not have to pay the gas to do all those transactions. And I think most importantly to me is not have to spend the time to do all that either. And always security is the #1 most important thing. Nothing gets listed on Beefy without it going through security kind of inspection from our developers to make sure that they don't have any like rug functions that they can just call, or they can't just mint a token to infinity to pull all the liquidity out of a LP. So really, Beefy is all about security and kind of ease of use. And so we've, the UI looks much different today than it did in 2020. So we're always trying to make things easier for users, and really just kind of be kind of a great stepping stone into DeFi.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. So just kind of want to walk through a little bit of what we're going to talk about today, because I think it's a really cool opportunity for anyone who's looking for a decent way to get some passive income. Because obviously, you know, we talk about 40-40-20 with regards to allocations, making sure you don't have more than 30% of one protocol. So diversification of, you know, your position plays is supremely important under our system. And one thing we want to talk about was something that, you know, obviously, you know, things like Arrow USDC on Beefy is like a 2,500% or something like that. You have all those plays. But if you're looking for something that's going to really just go through and keep you going through the bull market, we have a little strategy for you I wanted to talk about. And it involves the rev share token. Is that the best way to talk? Is it the rev share token, the governance token?
So yeah, I mean, it is both Beefy, B-I-F-I.
Actually, I don't hear you, EPETE.
I hear him. Do you hear me, Chris? I think it's you,
Can you
Chris.
hear me now?
I cannot. Do we run out of battery? No, I ran out of battery on that. While you do that, I'm going to run through. While you get that sorted. Before,
No, it's
little
you,
bit
Chris.
of an aside on that. Oh, it's me?
While Chris is sorting out his audio, do you want to just continue what you were saying, EPETE, about the Beefy token strategy?
Sure, yeah. So Beefy, BIFI, that's our token. It is our governance token. We are a DAO. The treasury is 100% controlled by the DAO. We don't spend from the treasury without DAO approval in the first place. So it is our governance token, but the tokenomics of the token is that it is getting a share of protocol revenue. The token was pretty much given out for free within the first like 30 days of the protocol's launch. 10% was held for the founders, but those time locks have been expired for over like a year and a half. And really the founders, after 6 months, they kind of were taking a step back. And so the core team that's running the protocol now, we've been running it for over 3 years. And so, yeah, it's a revenue share token. And the old way that we used to do that was that on each chain, you could bridge Beefy to all the different blockchains that we were on, and then you could stake it into either the earnings pool or into the Beefy Maxi. And the way that kind of worked is that every time there was a harvest on one of the vaults, our performance fee was converted to chain, the native coin of that chain, and it was sent to our fee batch. And then whenever that fee batch is harvested, 36% of it goes to the people who are staking Beefy, and then the other 64% goes to the treasury, which is owned by the DAO. So, and then so that 36% would be natives and would go to the reward pool, and the Beefy Maxi Vault would actually be built on top of that. And so whenever someone calls harvest on the Beefy Maxi Vault, that would then sell that native token for Beefy. So it would market by the Beefy because it's already fully distributed. And so that's kind of the old way we did it. A lot of it's still the same, but some of the issues with that where the revenue was isolated to whichever chain was the one that was generating it. And we had to provide Beefy liquidity on every one of these blockchains so that we could do that Beefy Maxi compounding. So because it was isolated to whichever chain it was on, users either were going to get lower yield on the chain that they happen to be on if it wasn't the high revenue chain, or there was a lot of Beefy stake there, or they would have to bridge to another blockchain. Well, first they would have to unstake from either the Beefy Maxi or the revenue pool or the earnings pool, and then bridge and then restake. So there's a lot of steps that users had to go through to chase yield, and then they may end up like diluting the yield by the time they get here, and it might not like really be the best. It wasn't the best user experience, but we kind of really had to do it that way because the overall infrastructure didn't really exist to be able to kind of cheaply bridge revenue between chains. We would have had to like swap so many things and then pay all these bridge fees, and it would just eat into the revenue. So it wasn't the best. Wasn't the best thing all around. And so something really interesting about the Beefy Maxi Vault though is that when you stake into that, you actually get a receipt token. And this applies for all of our vaults. Whenever you just deposit, you get a receipt token that is Moo, like MOO, and then whatever kind of the underlying asset is. So you get Moo Beefy when you stake into the Beefy Vault, which is an interest-bearing token. And so every time there's a compounding happening of that Beefy Vault, the price per full share goes up. And so that basically means that while the quantity of your Moo Beefy doesn't change, the ratio of which you can exchange Moo Beefy back to Beefy, which you can see when you click on the token icon, you can see the active one. So that part's all still the same, but when it was on all these different blockchains, each one of those Moo Beefies had a different price per full share. So it wasn't really like, that's why you had to like unstake it before you were able to bridge it.
Hopefully you can hear me now. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah, we've been able to hear you the whole time.
You just couldn't hear us.
You can hear us now.
I just get technology. I got technology rugged. My
this is
bridge thing.
This is bringing me back, EPETE, because this is reminding me of I think the first time I was really using Moo tokens, which was back on Polygon as collateral for my vaults. Because to me, that was one of the applications that was like super cool to me, was the fact that I could have an LP or an auto compounding position of some sort, or even just one auto compounding token, and then use that as collateral for a stable coin, and then have that still farming. And I want to say for a very brief amount of time, we were able to use like Beefy auto compounding LP positions as collateral for that, but then there was some concern, like security concern, and that got turned off.
I think it's really just kind of I think it was dealing with kind of the debt ceilings on Cheetah side.
Mm-hmm.
There were some positions which, especially during Solidly, on like the original Solidly on Phantom, some of these different Cheetah vaults had very high kind of debt ceilings, and I think there did end up being some bad debt there. So it's kind of, there weren't any security issues from either side. It's just kind of some of their kind of parameters, and like if there was enough liquidity to actually kind of like liquidate some of these things.
Mm. Yeah, if you have debt that is backed but not hard to liquidate, then is it really backed?
Yeah. Yeah. So those were, yeah. So but actually, so the chain that you used to bridge Beefy, which pretty much every protocol that was on Phantom had this issue, was that the bridge was multi-chain. And so there were some things that we wanted to improve anyways, and then we took the multi-chain incident as a great opportunity to completely revamp the entire revenue distribution system that we had in place. So we redeployed the token on Ethereum. So it was a native BSC token because that's where we originally launched, but we were already on so many blockchains by that time, and Ethereum just makes the most sense to be kind of the home when you're a decentralized protocol. Ethereum kind of is where you want to be for your token.
Yep.
And so we relaunched the token. We were able to do that successfully. The Beefy that was in multi-chain did get moved to another address, but we had alerted all of our users to break liquidity, so that there was nowhere to go really with that Beefy that had been bridged. So we were able to make all of our users completely whole during this migration process. And so as you can see here now, when you're bridging, we use the ERC20 standard, the XERC20 standard from Connext. And so that actually allows us to bridge Beefy using many different kind of messaging providers. And so the DAO is in full control of the minting of Move Beefy on any other blockchain. And so we can add additional bridge messaging providers, or we can remove them if there's issues with them. So you can see we have Layer 0, Axeler, Chainlink CCIP. You can use the Optimism native bridge as well. And so because we moved to Ethereum, we actually made the decision that the token that we were going to bridge to other blockchains was actually going to be the Move Beefy receipt token for staking in the Beefy vault instead of just naked Beefy, because we wanted all of our users to have access to the kind of revenue share aspect of the Beefy token without having to pay the Ethereum mainnet gas fees. And so the process, if you're coming from Ethereum, would be to stake into the Beefy vault to get your Move Beefy, and then that can be bridged to Optimism. And should I talk about kind of how our new revenue bridge and system works and everything?
Yeah, we can definitely do that. I just wanted to kind of give everyone a heads up, basically the easiest way to get it, because you mentioned, you mentioned to me, obviously if you don't want to go to Ethereum and pay gas fees, you can buy Move Beefy on Optimism. You can buy it, using multiple methods at, whether it be at Velodrome, obviously, which is the largest DEX there, or you can even go to DeFi Llama Swap to do that as well. And it shows up as a whitelisted token. So if you're on Optimism and you just want to buy it that way, you can certainly do that. I just wanted to also kind of bring up the vault that obviously there are multiple vaults. There's one at Velodrome. That's the actual LP for this, which is, I think, the strategy. So you said you do. So if you wanted to play the flywheel game at Velodrome, you could do that, or you could do it here on Beefy's website, with the Move Beefy ETH pool. And what's great about this pool is specifically, and this is something that I totally didn't even realize until recently, is that you can zap into this pool, which is great because you don't have to go through going to the liquidity provider, swapping for your token and then staking it there. You can do it directly from within the vault here. This is what's called zapping in, or the old term on Beefy used to be beefy in or beef in or something like that.
Yeah, beef in was the name.
That was the term, right? So what's great is that it used to be that you only had a couple of options. It was going to be either the two tokens or the LP token. Here, and this is something I didn't realize until very recently, you can actually bring any token that you have in your wallet that's listed here, at least that's whitelisted here, to get in. So even if you just have USDC, you can have it here. It'll take care of all the swapping for both assets, purchasing your Move Beefy, splitting it into ETH, and then putting the LP, then staking the token in the vault in one click transaction. Not quite click a button, win a house, but a really cool way to get some passive income. So, before you kind of get to that part, I just kind of wanted to ask, this is, I love that the Zap is this involved now. What is running here in the background in terms of swapping? Is it just something aggregated, or are you guys using a specific provider for that?
We build on top of, right now we've built on top of 1inch and also Kyber. So if you choose one of those tokens and then type in something of how many you want to zap, so just say zap in 10 USDC, you'll actually see, it'll show you the route that it's using and also the provider that would be getting used just as soon as it comes.
See. Okay.
So this is where you use Kyber, and you can see the full steps of everything that's happening in this one click.
Yeah,
and
that's awesome.
we're really excited about the ZAP 2 because we launched ZAP V3, and we within the last couple of months, we also added the ability to zap into curve vaults. And so that's something that you've never been able to do on Beefy until
Never ever.
very
That's
recently.
amazing. That is amazing. So yeah, I love that you guys are doing that. You can zap into curve vaults. That changes the game again at Beefy. I love that.
Yeah, Chris has been hating on the curve UI for 4 years now.
Yeah,
so he's happy to not have to look at that.
Exactly. So no, this is great. And I just wanted to ask, so obviously, do you get the distributions for Beefy holders, or is that only if you have staked it and brought it down from mainnet?
So yeah, when you have Beefy, every time that there's a compound on that vault, that Beefy vault on mainnet, that price per full share goes up, which means you can redeem it for more Beefy. So it doesn't matter where the Beefy is at any point in time, you absolutely have the technical ability to bridge back to mainnet and then unstake from the Beefy vault, and you will get the number of Beefy with that ratio of that price per full share that you can see in the UI.
Yep,
so,
and it's up here, the difference. So you're
So we relaunched in October of last year, and so that basically means there's been like a little bit over 2% yield that's been kind of accumulated into there, and things have been moving much quicker over the last month. But yeah, so that ratio just goes up on every harvest. So you're able to realize that, like, if you just want to buy Beefy on Optimism and just hold that, you are still getting that benefit of that revenue share. Excellent.
Yeah, so you just get more Beefy that you can redeem for Beefy on mainnet if you want to, because you're getting it on a discount technically, right, based on the ratio here. Did I get that right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay,
and
perfect.
That's the way kind of all of our vaults work. They all have this interest-bearing component, and so that's how other protocols are able to build on top of us like that, because it is, the vault token itself is still an ERC20 token as well.
And the vault share comes from just the vault, or is that from all the 600 vaults that you guys manage with rev share into that?
So what's great now is that all vaults do feed into Ethereum mainnet. So part of the redeployment of the token, we also redeployed the entire infrastructure around doing that revenue share. And so we actually have a fully decentralized revenue system. So on each individual chain, every time a vault gets harvested, the native gets sent to a revenue bridge. And so similar to before, like whenever that revenue bridge gets, periodically we're calling a harvest on that revenue bridge. And whenever that happens, it's kind of doing the same thing as the fee batch, where, it's doing something different from the fee batch, because instead of kind of splitting it up between native and stables, we're actually converting it all to stables, and then that harvest is actually going to bridge those stables as well. And so we're able to use swap out which kind of bridge provider, and it's going to be different depending on which chain we're on, depending on kind of what bridges exist and where we can go. And so basically it's like, so say we're starting on like Polygon, and so everything's the revenue bridge is accumulating USDC on Polygon, and then whenever that harvest is called and there's enough, it's above the threshold for bridging, it actually will initiate that bridge transaction and send it to Arbitrum. And so we kind of have these like different like hubs, but eventually all these hubs feed into Arbitrum, because there's kind of good liquidity and there's a good bridge from Arbitrum back to Ethereum. And so this is happening on every single one of these chains that kind of flow into these hubs. And then once everything kind of ends up in Arbitrum, the harvest gets called on the fee batch for Arbitrum. And so everything is converted to stables, and all the stables are then sent to Ethereum mainnet. And so in Ethereum mainnet, since that's the final destination, now everything is going into our fee batch. And so the fee batch is getting the Ethereum from the vault harvest on Ethereum. And then at the same time, it's getting these stables from Arbitrum, which is coming from all the other blockchains as well. And then so when the harvest is called on the fee batch, for the ETH, 36% that's going to go to the revenue pool. The other 64% that's going to get converted to stables and sent to the treasury. And then kind of the opposite happens with the stables that are in the fee batch. 36% are get swapped to ETH, and then 64% stay as stables and get sent to the treasury. And then so that's what happens. And so the fee batch will then notify the reward pool which is now we just have the one reward pool on Ethereum. That gets notified with ETH. And so users have the option to stake their Beefy for ETH using the rewards pool, or they can stake into the Beefy vault, which is actually built on top of the rewards pool. And so basically the Beefy vault is one of the depositors into the rewards pool. And so then once the harvest is called on the Beefy vault, then whatever amount of Ethereum it has available to collect, it kind of collects that Ethereum and then market buys Beefy and then does the compounding. And so that's what allows you to ever increasingly redeem new Beefy for more Beefy.
Excellent.
Yeah, and so like all this entire process is fully decentralized. Anybody can call any of these transactions. We use Gelato to automate the process to make sure that they get called kind of on a certain cadence. But if you've kind of got somewhere to be and you want to pay all the transactions, you can call every single harvest on every single revenue bridge all the way up to Arbitrum and call the harvest on the fee batch if you so desire. So it's great that we try to make everything we can as fully decentralized as possible, so that if something were to happen to the core team, it's not like only admin can call these transactions or anything like that. So yeah, so I mean, it's kind of insane just how much work went into this. But now we have we turn a bad situation with multi-chain into, it's like, okay, let's do all these things we've been thinking about for a long time. And so let's just make the Beefy revenue distribution as best as it possibly can.
Love it. Love it. And just to let everyone know, you are getting, if you have Mu Beefy, you want to hold it. Honestly, unless you want to play at that velodrome, I would auto compound it and just set and forget it. Because in my opinion, Beefy is not going anywhere. It's just going to get better and better. You'll be building this Mu Beefy, which you at some point will be able to go. And if you want to redeem it on mainnet for Beefy and get that difference from building your LP, that's a really great play in my personal opinion. So that was for what we learned today. Thanks again, EPETE, for talking about all that and just kind of walking the group through that. I think that's really great. I think it's really important for anyone who's looking for a great play, because it's supporting a great protocol like Beefy that's been around in our space for such a long time. Such a stalwart in what we look for in terms of finding the best opportunities in all of DeFi. So seeing at this level, supporting them at this level, happy to do so.
Thanks for having me. Of
course. Yeah, I want to be respectful for your time. So you're welcome to hang around for the call for help section, or you can drop. But I'll give you a second to plug whatever you like. Please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so we're definitely still building, still innovating. Kind of until like really the last 2 weeks, the traditional yield farming had kind of been tapering off. And so we're actually very close within the next week or two, releasing our own ALM, automated liquidity manager. So we're going to be building directly on top of concentrated liquidity exchanges like Uniswap, and we'll just keep branching out for more from there. So definitely keep an eye on Beefy socials when we share those public beta links, so everyone can kind of start playing around with it. And we've been running a bunch of different kind of private beta in-house to just make sure we've got all the data components available to our users. So from launch, you're going to be able to see very, very detailed yield information on your position. Because a lot of times you kind of get promised these really big APRs for these very narrow concentrated liquidity positions, and then you kind of start doing your math, and it's like, this isn't really what I'm getting. So users will see kind of how it's been performing before they get in, and then once they get in, they'll see exactly how they're performing as well. So we're extremely excited about that, and to continue making the Zap better and better. We're not able to zap into Bouncer yet, but that'll be coming sometime soon as well, and also zapping into our new concentrated liquidity management that we refer to as concentrated liquidity.
Concentrated liquidity.
Yeah, so you'll see CLM for us, and that's basically our ALM solution.
Love it, love it. Thanks again for being here. Again, you're more than welcome to stay for the next quick portion of Call for Help, and we'll go ahead and transfer that now. Again, thanks for joining us today, EPETE.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. It was a pleasure to meet you, and I look forward to speaking and collaborating again more soon.
Likewise. You guys all have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, sir. Excited to have you on more as we keep going. So we'll go move on to Call for Help. Questions from Tom. Hey, Chris and Andrew, what is an RPC, and do I need to change it in my wallet? If so, how do I do that? Glad you asked, Tom. Very simple procedure if you're going to do this. Just wanted to start with an RPC. What is that? An RPC server stands for a remote procedure call server, and it's basically a call to that server handles your transaction request between your wallet, which is probably, if we're talking about Ethereum, MetaMask or Rabby, and the actual blockchain server itself. Now, in today's DeFi landscape, you generally don't need to change your RPC all that often, mainly because there's at least a half dozen major public RPC infrastructure companies, and they each command thousands of servers ready to handle traffic. And they do that through aggregation. So let's say, the name of our server is X, whatever.xyz. It'll always hit that, and then it'll just go to whatever server is available, much like at a call center. But that doesn't mean that you may not want to ever change it in case something gets gummed up or stuck. And ultimately, if you do a hard refresh of the page and that doesn't fix it, you can certainly change it. And another reason is if you're a developer, and we're not really going to go into that one, but I think of it this way. So if you're going in DeFi doing transactions, you may look at making transactions in DeFi as like shopping at a store and then going to your checkout lanes. Normally you would just get fed to the next open lane, right? But if you get your own RPC server, you actually can have your own custom checkout lane at any time that you can bring with you to any store. As a point of nostalgia, I made a video on this actually like 4 years ago on my personal YouTube channel, but there are multiple free or low-cost RPC providers if you're looking to do this. And you'll need to have one custom for each blockchain. Infura, Alchemy, QuickNode, all good RPC providers that cover multiple chains. If you're looking to go that route, or if you're a developer looking for, just specific traffic on a particular protocol you're working on. Most good blockchains also have a public RPC, but if you're looking for one to really, test your application, that's the best way to go. But you may need to change it at some time. So I'm going to go at the easiest way to do this, and I'm going to explain this using MetaMask first. And that involves using ChainList, the great protocol from the ChainList group. Let me hide that piece right there. So, oh, no, come back. I'm sharing my screen, that's why. Okay. So, ultimately, if you come here with a wallet like MetaMask, it'll just say connect wallet here. You'll connect your wallet here, and then all you need to do is find the blockchain that you're looking to change your server for. One in particular that seems to happen fairly, not often, but one that I've had to do it a couple times on is Arbitrum. So you just search, what you'll do is you come up to the search networks, type in Arbitrum, and you're going to want Arbitrum 1. That is the normal Arbitrum blockchain. When we talk about Arbitrum, this is the one that we're talking about. And if you've never actually had it in your MetaMask, then you would just click on add a MetaMask there, and it would add it, pretty easily. Otherwise, if you want to change the RPC, you just come here down to this down arrow, click on it, and now the RPC URL list comes up. And again, you may have to scroll here, but what you're looking for is anything that is like towards the top that has 2 green check marks. So this is Omnia Tech. That's one way to go. Latency is a little on the high side. Let's see if we can find one that's a little bit better. It looks like that there isn't, but we want the lowest latency. So choose one that has the lowest latency. And if it has the ability to be added to MetaMask, you'll just click on that, and then it'll automatically add it to MetaMask. It'll make it very simple. It'll actually make it an interesting name. Like in this case, it'll go with the RPC provider. So this is Arbitrum Llama nodes. I already have one here, so I'm going to go ahead and add that for Llama nodes. But that's pretty much what you would do is you would go, come down, obviously read the warnings, and then click on approve. And then it'll automatically change to that network right after that. Go ahead and refresh your page on whatever protocol you're on, and that should make that work. If you're on Rabby, all you need to do is to go into Rabby down here, like you pull up your wallet, and then under the More button, you'll see a section called Custom RPC. And then you click on that. And then the thing is that you normally need to have an RPC already either purchased or created or grab an address for. And then you click on Add RPC, choose the blockchain you're looking for. In this case, you probably choose Arbitrum, and then add that URL in there. And then that's how that works as well. Not as clean as it is on MetaMask, but honestly, I don't think you really need to do that in Rabby all that often, but if you had to, for whatever reason, that would be the reason why. So thanks, Tom, for the question. Hopefully that answered your question. And yeah. What a great episode, Andrew. We had to have EPETE from Beefy on. Any closing thoughts before we head home?
Cowish.
Not bullish, cowish.
And man, I would have loved to have more time to chat with him, but there's a lot to talk about. And it was also hilarious his painting in the background there.
Yeah,
that very classic cow painting.
Yeah, I asked him if he had that commissioned. He's like, no, it's from IKEA. But
yeah, I know. I've seen that cow before.
Oh, really?
But,
okay. We don't have an IKEA here, so it's the first time I've seen it. But
I don't know that I've seen it at IKEA, but I think it's other places too. It's probably by some famous photographer.
Probably so.
Yeah, it was a great call. I mean, I think the only other thing I could talk about is how much my Aerodrome and Extra Longs are printing.
Yeah.
In their respective long farms.
Mm-hmm.
Every day I wake up, I look at the price, good price, happy.
It's a beautiful thing what's happening on base. They just need to fix the fee issue, and then we'll be back to probably setting up more positions. But
hey, I don't need to set up any new positions for a while. I'm probably not adding the longs at this current level.
Well, in the event that you could add the longs without paying $20.
I don't need to, though.
That's true.
It's just like as positions have 3 and 5x'd, my daily yield is 3 and 5x'd, and it's looking pretty juicy.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Thanks again for joining us, everybody, here on the TVL show. We'll see you next Wednesday. Also, Friday, we have a couple of really great things on the docket for you if you're, in the school group. We have a Q&A with that you're going to be sharing with our mastermind with MotoSwap, the layer 1 Bitcoin DEX, which will be interesting to hear from. And of course, we have trading at 3 p.m. Eastern with me. So we'll cover something interesting. So again, feel free to join our group at tvlschool.com/Beacon, completely free. Learn from the best in the business. Thanks for joining us today. Good to see you, Andrew. 07.
Cheers.
Have a great day. See you later. Have a great day, everyone.